Hi there. My name is Equipment Operator First Class, Seabee Combat Warfare and Expeditionary Combat Warfare Specialist, Michael Ivey. And today, I'd like to talk to you about the highly mobile, multi-purpose wheeled vehicle, or, for the layman, the Humvee. You see, whether it's been in peacekeeping operations or in combat, Humvee light tactical vehicles have been playing a vital role in U.S. forces and their allies since 1985. The major reason for the success of the Humvee are twofold. 1. The quality, durability, and flexibility of the Humvee's design, and 2. The skill and proficiency of the Humvee's operator. You see, the success and safety of missions involving the Humvee depend to a large extent on this second aspect. And that's why in this video program, we will be covering not only how to operate the vehicle proficiently, but more importantly, how to operate it safely. Let's begin with an overview of the Humvee lineup and some of its key features. The Humvee is available in several configurations, and with a few minor exceptions, the operating procedures for the basic M998 variety, the A1 model, the A2 model, and the expanded capacity vehicle, or ECV, are essentially the same. At the heart of all Humvee powertrains is a 6.2-liter, a 6.5-liter, or a 6.5-liter turbocharged diesel engine. These engines are matched with either a 3-speed automatic or an electronically controlled 4-speed automatic transmission. Unlike conventional four-wheel drive vehicles, the Humvee's full-time four-wheel drive transfer case still maintains traction even when as many as 3 wheels lose their surface grip. The most noticeable characteristic of the Humvee is its wide stance. More than 7 feet across, it's just under a foot narrower than the M35A3 2.5-ton truck. Its width provides optimal stability and is a key performance and design feature for its role operating in different terrain conditions. Other contributing factors to the stability and mobility of the Humvee are its geared hubs and double control arm independent suspension. These features help to provide higher ground clearance, which is especially important when the vehicle is subjected to off-road conditions. As you can see, the Humvee is no ordinary vehicle. Its ruggedness and versatility are the main reasons it's earned the reputation of being the light tactical vehicle of choice. The special handling characteristics of the Humvee are, in a word, dynamic. Unlike anything you'd experience in a conventional passenger car or truck, when it comes to performance, when it really counts, the Humvee is in a special class all by itself. And because of such a special vehicle, the Humvee requires a thorough understanding of its capabilities and maintenance requirements in order to keep it in top performance readiness. Since, as vehicle operators, you will be likely driving in a variety of different terrain and climate conditions, you must know what the vehicle's capabilities are and its limitations. Everything you will need to know about operating and servicing the Humvee is contained in the Dash 10 Operator's Manual, which accompanies each vehicle. There's the 280-10 manual, which covers the basic A1 and A2 series, and the 387-10 manual that covers the ECV. If you're ever unsure about a specific aspect or operating procedure of the Humvee that you have, be sure to consult the manual. Now, let's review some of the specific operating procedures that you'll need to remember for the Humvee. First, you will need to do a complete checkout before operating the vehicle to be sure it is mission ready and safe. Complete all the preventative maintenance checks and services contained in the Before Operations section of the Dash 10 Operator's Manual to make sure that the vehicle is operational and mission capable. You will also need to perform the during and after operation steps listed in this section of the manual as part of the overall requirements for operating the Humvee. Here to help, Staff Sergeant Clark is going to go over some of the more important checks that you'll need to perform before actually operating the Humvee.
Let's go over some of the more important checks you'll need to perform before actually driving the Humvee. Depending on the Humvee configuration and the terrain conditions, there are varying tire pressure requirements you'll need to be aware of.
Thanks, Staff Sergeant Clark. Be sure to follow the prescribed tire pressures as required in the PMCS with the specific Humvee configuration and application that you're operating in mind. Tire pressure should be checked on a weekly basis to make sure they maintain safe levels for operation. There may be times where it's desirable to underinflate the tires for increased traction in sand, mud, or snow. Be sure to check the recommended tire pressure settings for varying driving conditions in the tire maintenance section of the PMCS manual in the Dash 10. We'll review these different driving conditions in more detail during the ride and handling portion of the video. Staff Sergeant Clark is now going to take us through a number of things that you'll need to review when you climb into the cab of the Humvee to continue your before operations checkout.
When you climb into the cab of the Humvee, you'll have a number of things to review as you continue your before operation checkout. For starters, make sure the driver's seat is properly adjusted to permit safe and comfortable control of steering, braking, and acceleration. For use in emergencies, make sure the first aid kit is aboard and properly secured under the driver's seat in all models, except the M1114, where it's under the passenger seat. The fire extinguisher should also be located either under the driver's seat or off to the left side, depending on the Humvee model you're operating.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Clark. You'll also note that there are two side view mirrors in the Humvee that will need to be adjusted for proper visibility alignment before operations. Begin by moving the pivoting arm assemblies on both mirrors until they lock in place. Adjust the driver's side mirror by loosening the top nut on the pivot shaft. Position the shaft forward of the windshield so that the center line of the mirror arm is about 9 inches from the vehicle. Tighten the top nut and adjust the mirror head for best visibility. The procedure for the passenger side mirror is exactly the same, except that the center line of the mirror arm should be set about 7 inches from the vehicle before adjusting the mirror head for proper visibility. Proper mirror adjustment is a good illustration of precision and safety. The more precise the adjustments, the safer the vehicle becomes.
While learning to operate the Humvee proficiently is vital to the success of its mission role, nothing is more important than operating it safely. Safety is by far the #1 priority and goes hand in hand with success. Safety means making sure all weapons, cargo, and any loose items are properly stowed and secured before operating the vehicle. You should also be aware of the special partition door in the M1114, which provides inside access to cargo stowed in the rear of the vehicle. Safety means making sure that the driver and all passengers are secure, with safety seatbelts fastened at all times.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Clark. Safety means knowing how to safely operate and control the Humvee under varying terrain and climate conditions so that the crew remains safe and secure and the mission successfully accomplished. This is especially important when transporting personnel since seatbelt protection is provided only for the driver and passengers inside the cab and not in the troop cargo area. If the vehicle you are operating is equipped with a turret and gunner's platform, all personnel should be inside the vehicle when driving over side slopes, hills, or obstacles. Now, let's return to Staff Sergeant Clark and go over the procedures for starting up the Humvee. Get in the Humvee, Staff Sergeant Clark. Before starting the vehicle, make sure you know and understand what all of the functional indicators represent on the Humvee instrument cluster. Check and monitor all gauges for proper readings, especially the voltmeter and fuel gauges before you start the vehicle, as well as during vehicle operations. When ready to start the vehicle, make sure you can see the following indicators on the instrument panel. When the engine stop, run, start switch is positioned to run, The wait to start lamp comes on, indicating that the glow plugs have been activated to heat the engine pre-combustion chambers, a requirement for the diesel engine. When the engine is warmed up, the wait to start lamp goes out, indicating that the engine is now ready to be actually started. Do not attempt to start the engine before this lamp goes out. The brake warning lamp is another important indicator and remains on as long as the parking brake is engaged.
The parking brake is an important safety feature of all Humvees.
Haha, yes it is. Before starting the vehicle, make sure that it is properly engaged. The transmission should be in the park position for the A2 and ECV series, or in the neutral position for the basic and A1 Humvee. Some models may have a special release button on the parking brake, otherwise, all systems are alike. To release the parking brake, press the service brake pedal firmly and move the parking brake down until it is completely disengaged. Then, release the service brake pedal.
The procedure is reversed to engage the parking brake.
Haha, yes, it is. If the parking brake is not holding its grip properly and needs to be adjusted, make sure you first chalk the wheels before proceeding. Next, release the parking brake handle and turn the adjusting knob clockwise as tightly as possible by hand, then pull up on the handle to apply or engage the brake. If the brake does not engage properly, turn the adjusting knob counterclockwise until it does. To test the engagement of the parking brake, remove the chalk from the wheels and depress the service brake pedal. Start the engine. Place the transfer case shift lever into H for high position and the transmission lever to D for drive. Slowly let up on the service brake pedal. The parking brake should hold the vehicle stationary. If not, repeat the brake adjustment procedure to find the right setting that will work.
Once you've completed the checks we've just reviewed, and the others listed in the Preventive Maintenance Checks and Services section of the Dash 10 manual, you'll be ready to drive the vehicle. The Humvee is now checked out, secure, and ready for operation. The ride and handling portion of this video presentation will instruct you as to which transmission gear and transfer case selections to make for specific driving conditions and environments. If you experience any difficulties shifting the T-case, put the transmission in neutral, completely shut down the vehicle, then engage the T-case. It's important to be aware that the maximum operating speeds will vary depending on the transmission and transfer range selections made and the type of Humvee model configuration you're operating. The range can vary from 11 to 55 miles per hour, depending on the combination selected. In addition, the overdrive feature only applies to vehicles equipped with a 4-speed transmission, namely the A2 series, the M1113, and the M1114 ECVs.
Thanks, staff. Factors such as the gross vehicle weight of the Humvee, the terrain, and driving conditions all combine to affect the distance that can be traveled on a full tank of fuel. Under similar driving conditions, the cruising range for the Humvee varies from 275 miles to 337 miles, depending on the vehicle configuration. When operating the Humvee, be alert for unusual noises or vibrations and any other difficulties with handling. These symptoms could indicate a problem with steering, brakes, or some part of the powertrain. Above all, always use safe driving skills, even when driving in good weather on high traction surfaces where little or no wheel slippage is evident. Take nothing for granted, and be prepared at all times.
Here are a few important safety tips that will help make driving the Humvee a positive experience.
Thanks, Sarge. Know the capabilities and limitations of your vehicle to ensure safe operation and proceed with caution at all times. Be aware of the space your Humvee occupies and learn to anticipate potentially dangerous situations by driving defensively. For sustained highway operations on high traction surfaces in good weather, select the H, high transfer case range, with the transmission in the D third or D overdrive position. As weather or road conditions change, upshift or downshift accordingly.
Remember, although the Humvee was designed as a versatile vehicle, it wasn't designed for high mobility at high speeds. When you depress the accelerator, don't expect the same kind of responsiveness that you'd receive from a sports car. Focus on keeping all four wheels on the road at all times and adjust your driving as conditions change. One of the more crucial aspects of operating the vehicle safely is knowing how to handle turns and curves.
Always approach them at reasonable speeds. Reducing speed enables the wheels to maintain maximum traction. Make sure you check your mirrors for any blind spots and make the proper adjustments if any are found. If you start to lose control of your vehicle in a curve, let up on the accelerator, avoid heavy braking, and as the vehicle slows down, gradually steer in the direction you want the vehicle to go. As you drive through the curve, wait until you are completely out of it before accelerating again. When using the brakes, avoid heavy braking. Instead, apply force with smooth and even pressure. This permits the wheels to continue rolling and maintain proper traction while the vehicle is slowing down. If the wheels do lock, release the brake pedal and use the steady increase in pressure technique. Because stopping distances vary with different weight load and driving conditions, you should take full advantage of drivetrain braking when slowing down. Use lower gears to manually downshift, especially on steep grades.
Not only is this a safe way to slow the vehicle down, but it also helps to extend the life of the brake linings.
That's a good point, staff. When driving on secondary road surfaces like rough asphalt, earth, or hard-packed gravel, vehicle operation is essentially the same as it is for normal high-traction surfaces. However, you must be prepared to slow down and adjust your driving technique for such changing conditions as encountering loose gravel. When faced with cross-country or off-road operations, special care and attention must be given to the unpredictable and unusual circumstances requiring good driving reflexes and skill. It is in this kind of terrain that the Humvee operator must be most alert and exercise great caution. If you are driving a vehicle equipped with a 4-speed transmission, do not use the overdrive position when operating in off-road terrain, as this could seriously damage the transmission.
One of the key ingredients to controlled and safe operation of your Humvee in off-road conditions is good driving sense. Here are a few useful tips to follow when operating in off-road conditions.
Avoid sharp turns and abrupt maneuvers when negotiating rough terrain. Vehicle speed should be consistent with the weather and terrain conditions. If possible, avoid dangerous obstacles like stumps and boulders. When encountering a side slope, good judgment needs to be exercised in determining how to make your approach. Planning ahead helps to avoid having to stop in a dangerous situation, as on a hillside. If you do have to stop on a hillside, make sure that you exit the vehicle on the uphill or high side to avoid placing yourself and crew in a vulnerable or potentially dangerous situation. If you are unsure, the rule of thumb is drive around the slope. If that is not possible and your tactical situation permits, walk over it first to get a better feel for the terrain. It is better to be sure. Navigating a side slope that is too steep could make the vehicle roll over, damaging equipment, and even causing serious injury or death to the vehicle occupants. Depending on the specific model you are operating and the terrain conditions, the Humvee is designed to traverse a side slope up to a maximum of 40%, or about 22 degrees, in the basic A1 and A2 series, and up to a 30%, or about 17 degrees, in the ECVs.
If you begin to experience wheel hop, then you have approached the maximum incline of the vehicle. Bear in mind this is a maximum incline. If you approach this type of incline in anything other than smooth, solid, and dry conditions, then you are compromising the safety of the vehicle and endangering the lives of all of its occupants.
If you're driving on a side slope in loose sand, gravel, or mud, use the serpentine method of steering the vehicle by weaving slightly back and forth. This will help to correct the vehicle's tendency of having the rear end drift down the slope. If that happens, steer into the direction of the slide to regain control. The Humvee is also capable of negotiating some fairly steep slopes, both up and down. It can navigate a slope grade up to a maximum of 60%, or about 31 degrees. Another important point to remember is that if you're not sure of the grade severity, loose or slippery surfaces will reduce the vehicle's ability to negotiate the grade. When coming to the top of a hill, be sure to slow down and prepare to stop if necessary. There may be a steep drop or other potentially dangerous conditions ahead. Don't drive blind. Use good driving sense and avoid serious problems before they happen. When going uphill, adjust the vehicle speed and select the proper transmission and transfer case ranges before starting. You may have to use the low gear range first or second gear to obtain the best driveline torque. Be sure to accelerate smoothly and not too fast, or the vehicle could lose its traction. Maintain your speed level as you continue up the incline. Drive straight up or straight down the hill whenever possible, and avoid having to turn or maneuver during the climb. This is especially critical when negotiating a steep hill, where potential for losing traction, sliding sideways, or possibly even rolling over is greatest. This could cause damage to the equipment, or even serious injury or death. Use the drivetrain to brake when slowing the vehicle down or when going downhill. In this situation, gear down according to your speed and use the engine compression and the low ranges of the transmission and transfer case to help control the speed. If you are in deep sand, don't use the brakes. It's best to keep the wheels moving to a point where you can safely control the vehicle. If you encounter a large dip or ditch in the terrain, enter at about a 15-degree angle, making sure that 3 wheels maintain contact with the ground at all times. When encountering large dips, ditches, or small washes, coast into the obstacle, using the engine as a brake, then use the low ranges of the transmission and transfer case to power out. If approaching a ridge, remember to slow down, as it is possible for the vehicle to get airborne crossing it, resulting in a loss of control and possible injury to the occupants. In order to maximize traction when going over the ridge, select the path that provides the same surface conditions for both wheels at the same axle. As with crossing a ditch, use an angular approach to ensure that 3 of the vehicle's wheels remain on solid footing. The Humvee is also capable of crossing logs and other obstacles, such as rocks and mounds of up to 16 inches in height. The proper way to cross the log is to approach at about a 15-degree angle. You should then walk the vehicle over the log, one tire at a time. As the tire makes contact with the log, slowly and carefully accelerate up the log, and use the service brakes to ease each tire back down.
Those are some of the more typical encounters that you may be faced with when performing operational missions with the Humvee. Now let's review some of the more unusual and adverse conditions that you may be faced with.
One of those is water fording. All Humvees can ford up to 30 inches without the need of auxiliary equipment. Marine Corps Humvees are attached with a deep water fording kit that enables them to ford up to 60 inches of water. These kits are not available on the M1114 ECV. You should never attempt shallow water fording unless the water depth is known to be 30 inches or less, with a bottom surface that is hard and stable. The vehicle should not exceed 5 miles per hour while fording. If you enter the water too fast, it will splash up over the hood and into the air intake, causing the engine to stop abruptly. Under this condition, attempting to start the vehicle could damage the engine. When fording, the proper way to enter the water is at a slow and steady, even vehicle speed. Exit the water in an area that has a gentle slope if possible. To dry out the brakes, drive at slow speeds while slowly applying pressure on the brake pedal until uneven braking ceases.
One of the most sudden things that can happen when operating any vehicle is a tire blowout. Here's some things that you should do if it should happen to you while operating the Humvee.
The first thing the operator should do is back off the accelerator and maintain control of the vehicle, especially the steering. If the vehicle does go out of control, apply a quick burst of acceleration. This will help to realign the front and rear ends of the vehicle, allowing the operator to regain full control. Any necessary steering corrections can then be made before slowing the vehicle down until it comes to a full stop in a safe location.
The program that you have just seen was designed to show you how to operate the Humvee proficiently, and most importantly, how to operate it safely. For further instructions, check out the Dash 10 manual that accompanies each Humvee for more comprehensive details on the operation and maintenance. The Humvee is an extraordinary vehicle, and like the crew that it carries, it must be respected and cared for. You are part of a select group that has been entrusted to operate the Humvee responsibly. However, even the most thorough training is no substitute for the level of commitment that each operator must have to operate the Humvee proficiently and, most importantly, safely. Take the opportunity now to demonstrate that commitment with the same pride that has become a hallmark of the Humvee heritage.